What's up guys? This is the first of many tutorials. I've been talking about doing these for a while. I haven't really ever shown my face, or definitely not my voice, on this page ever. But I want to show a little bit more of myself and connect with you guys a little bit more. I want to build a community with people who have similar interests. That's how I got into it. I started watching people like Max Novak and Brian Del Mata. If you haven't, check those guys out. They do awesome tutorials, and they helped me get into video editing and really helped me out a lot with learning the basics. So that's what I want to do for people. I just want to get people into it and show them the basics, show them how to accomplish what I do and what many others do now. With the internet, there's such a vast library of information, but I think any of my followers or potential new followers who want to get into video editing, I think this will be a good way to learn, because that's how I learned. I don't have any like professional guidance or anything. I just learned off the internet. So these tutorials were super helpful for me, and I hope they'll be helpful for you. So the first effect that we're gonna do is this cloning effect that you saw at the beginning of the video. It's super popular with car edits, but you can take it anywhere. You could take it to skate edits, product videos, music videos, basically anywhere. It's a super simple effect once you learn how to rotoscope and keyframe, which I'll go over a little bit. If you guys want more in-depth tutorials on keyframing and rotoscoping and the basics, then just let me know in the comments and I will get those going. So let's just jump right into it. I'll show you guys how to do this cloning effect. All right, so first we're gonna jump in. You'll see this page when you open up After Effects for the first time. Forgot to mention I'm on Mac. It'll be very similar, just slightly different with Windows, but you'll just hop into here, new composition. Usually what I do is 1080 by 1920. You don't really want to go bigger than that because it'll get compressed weird in social media. So I'm gonna just keep it at that. I usually do 30 frames per second. Seems to do pretty well. My duration will change every once in a while if I know it's gonna be a longer video, but those are basically the only settings. You'll see presets. I have it set to the social media portrait HD, and that'll just put in all the info for you. You can name your composition up here. Usually I'll just name it big, and then that's how I know everything is in that big one, and then there will be smaller ones later. So I usually just do big, press enter, it'll create the composition. I've already dragged in the footage, which is already color graded and has music and everything. So you'll see it show up down here. Usually I'll just name this like base, just to keep track of all the different layers that you have. It's good to keep, usually I'll color coordinate it and keep a specific name for it. So I'll just keep the color for right now. Here is the end, and you want to go to the last frame. This just makes it a little bit easier for you. Go to the last frame that's visible. You see how it's black there. I'll go back one and press N, and that sets your end point. B will set your beginning point. So if I wanted it like here, I'll put B right there, but I'll just put it back there, and then you can right click and you'll see all these different options. I usually do trim comp to work area, and that sets the duration of the composition to exactly where I need it. I might even, just for this effect, go into the specific clip, see the first frame visible, set the B, and go to the last frame, which is the end. Perfect, and then I'll do that same thing, trim comp to work area, and there you go. There's just that one clip. I have the audio on still, but there's that one clip just played through, no effects or anything. It is color graded, and I added some halation, which is that little red tone you see kind of up here. That is pretty simple to do in Premiere. If you guys want to see how to do that in Premiere, because that's really popular right now. If you want to see that, comment down below. Let me know if you want to see how to some color grading tips and some halation if you want. Going from here, usually I'll do Command D to duplicate the layer, and then from there you double click on the layer, and I'll usually do Option W, and that brings up the rotoscope tool. Now you can kind of see the green there. If you press Command and click and drag, you can change the brush size. Pretty easy to do that. And then if you press Option, that will remove any layers that you have. So pretty easy. So zooming in here, you want to zoom in on your subject just to make sure that everything gets covered by this rotoscope. And then basically it's just as simple as clicking and dragging. The new Rotoscope 3 does a pretty good job of capturing your subject. Now see how it like caught the shadow there? You'll just go down and kind of just trace it out. Make sure that you got everything correct. And sometimes it's kind of a chore just getting everything lined up, but you want to make sure that you get every detail. So I'll just do this real quick and see when it's finished. Alright, so that's pretty good. I would normally go into a little more detail just to make sure everything was perfect, but for the tutorial purpose, this will be just fine. You can see the sky up here through the rack. Usually I would go in, and unfortunately, Rotoscope is not that good, so it'd probably be a frame by frame situation where I'm like trying to get the sky out of there but still keep the roof rack. Little details like that can be pretty tricky when you're rotoscoping. So in this case, I just go to the end and I let RotoBrush basically initialize everything, and it'll render out a preview that you can see. And it's super helpful, and that way you can see everything without finalizing it. So if you see that it makes a mistake, you can fix it. And yeah, we'll let this render out real quick and get back to you. Okay, so this is all rendered out here. You can see it kind of caught up there, and if you scrub through, you can kind of see where it went wrong. So basically best practice is to catch it at the beginning. Otherwise you'll have to keep going back, which it works from beginning to end. So if something gets messed up in the beginning, then it'll keep messing up later. So it's best to go to the start point of when it messed up and fix it there, and it'll correct itself in the future. So I'm gonna go in again with the RotoBrush, holding Option, gonna just go back. There we are. Right. Just scrub through. It'll have to re-render every time that you make a change. So you can see somewhere in between there, it got kind of messed up again. It's catching that sign in the back. Looks like, oh yeah, and it got a little screwed up here. So this is kind of what I'm talking about, where it's good, but it's not that good yet. You kind of have to track it. So going frame by frame, tracing it out. At least it's simple. It's way easier than masking. So I'll just make these edits, and then meet back up. All right, cool. So we got this all ready. As you saw, I had to do basically a little bit of frame to frame work, which happens when there's a lot of small detail like this. Rotoscope is not that good yet, so small details kind of set it off. So yeah, you just click this freeze button. I forgot to include that. You click this freeze button and that finalizes everything. So once you're done, once every frame looks good, you hit that freeze button and it's good to go. And then you can go back to here on the composition tab. Basically, it wasn't a great rotoscope. I probably would have put more time into it, but for tutorial sake, it'll do. So if you hit this eye icon right here, you can hide the background and basically go through and see. And then if you press, go into here, I have my effects settings up here as well, but if you go down to here, effects, roto, you'll see all the effects for the RotoBrush. So here, I'll probably add a little bit of feather, and you can reduce the chatter by 100. And that kind of helps stabilize things, especially that roof rack. But you can see the reduced chatter helped it a lot, so smoothed it out quite a bit. I don't think anybody would, you know, roast you for having that. So let's go back into here. Usually I'll rename this to like Roto, just to, again, keep track of it. Usually I'll just change the color as well. I'll do green for the car. And this one I might even do Roto top, so I can keep track, because I will be duplicating it more. So now we get into the cloning stage, right? So basically I start at the beginning. You press Command D to duplicate the layer. So I'll change this to clone, and I want to drag that under the top one. So this will be unaffected. That's just a roto. And then you've got your clone here. So now is where you add effects and timing and keyframing. So let's get into that. So basically, if you want it to move, right, you go to position, press P on your keyboard. That'll bring up position. And you can drag this and see now it's moving above and below your subject here. And that's because this is right in the middle, it's over the background, and it's under this first clone. So that's pretty cool. So let's reset that. You can right click and just reset. So basically we want a couple different clones. In this scenario, you want a couple different clones coming above the car, coming from behind. So we're gonna make it look like that. So basically you have the top and the bottom. Start somewhere here. For the bottom one, I'll make a keyframe for the base position. This is where it starts out. And I'll probably go 10, maybe 5 keyframes. And I'll drag it up just so it's a little bit above. And then from this point, I'm gonna press D, clone it, and drop it down. So you have top, clone, clone 2. And then here you can open up position as well. Hit reset. And that's just right clicking on the position. You just hit reset. Actually, from here, I'm going to, so we have it moving now with the keyframe, just slightly above. So what I'm gonna do here is clone or duplicate the clone layer. So now I've got, here I'll do this to make it a bit easier. So the top is orange. These are the clones down beneath. So if you press position again, you'll see it duplicated everything. So from here, you want to click on this keyframe, delete it, and then drag this first one to where that one ends. So you want to line up that. And then you go another 5 keyframes and then drag it as well, just slightly above there. And then basically repeat that process. I'll do probably 3 clones for this. So I'll hit P on my keyboard again, position, delete this last keyframe, move this first keyframe up, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, move it up to the top here, and just kind of evenly space those. And then I'll do 10 keyframes from that last position. And then you want to start sending them back down if you want that. Like right here, you have basically, let's see, right at that endpoint, you have the clones going up now. If you want them to come back down, you basically reverse that process. So we'll let it render out here. So basically you have that stacking effect, and you can play with this. You can make it more fluid if you want. You can send them all up at the same time. So if you put the keyframe, say at this first keyframe for all of them and different endpoints, it'll kind of create a more fluid motion. This one is more indexed where it's 1, 2, 3. And I kind of like that. It's a little bit different, but let me just show you as an example. If you set them all here, then they all kind of leave at the same time, and it's a little more fluid. If you want them to end at the same point, you can. So if you drag them all to meet at the same time, let that play out. And that's a little quick, of course. You can grab these, pull them out, and you see it's kind of that effect. So whatever you want to do, really, that's completely fine. So we'll do 10, and then we'll reverse the process. So we will right click on here. Actually, so we reverse the process. So we will click here to add a keyframe. That's keeping it at its current position. And then go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And you can just right click on here, reset, sends it back down. And then just like we layered them down, we'll layer them up. So you're getting kind of a pyramid of keyframes here. So this one, now you made that keyframe, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right click on position, reset, it goes back down. And just repeat that process. So now you'll have that effect where it goes up and then back down. And again, you can choose the keyframes you want. You can choose if you want all the layers to come up fluidly, if you want them all to stagger like that. It's all up to you. It just depends on playing with these keyframes and deciding what looks the best to you. So this looks pretty good. It's a little choppy, and it's a little not great yet. So what I will do, so it looks a little choppy still, looks a little artificial. So what I'm gonna do is, if you click right here, this icon stands for motion blur. And if you don't see it in there, you can right click up here, and you can right click anywhere up here and see columns, and you'll see switches, modes, all these, and I believe it's under either switches or modes, but you should see it up there. So there's that. So yeah, we added some motion blur, so it gives it a little more of a realistic look, not so artificial. Okay, so we added motion blur now, and you can see that motion blur as they come up and down. Even if I pause it in the middle of one of these frames, you can see the blur there, and that just helps it look more realistic and look a lot better. Sorry if the light too is, so it makes it look a lot more realistic, and then it'll come back down. One other thing I like to add is I like to drag and see all of these keyframes, get all of them, and then press F9, and that creates an easy ease for all keyframes, which just makes it a little bit smoother and kind of makes it just have a little more life to it. And that just makes it look really cool to me, especially with the motion blur. And from here, you can add any effect you want, basically. You can use turbulent displace on the clones, and that makes them wavy. You can use any sort of distort. You can change the color of the clones. You can do basically anything that you want. If you want to see some of my recommended effects, just let me know again. Give me ideas for these future tutorials, because I'd be happy to show what I would do probably, but I think what I did in the video was add a VHS effect, which you could do with any sort of overlay. I have the red giant stuff down here, and that works awesome, so anything like that. And you can, now with the rotoscope, you can distort the background as well, which I love to do. So like what I like to do is just sort of mess with the background sometimes. And with those rotos, you can now mess with the back. So I just added this glitchify effect, and you can see it. It distorted the background without touching the foreground now, which is a really cool feature. If you want to keep it clean and look like this, and then if you want to see all of the keyframes, just select the layers and press U, and that will show you all keyframes for those layers, which is really nice. And if you double tap it, it'll give you an in-depth layer, in-depth view. So that's basically the cloning effect. It's just rotoscoping your subject, using keyframes to distort them and to move them around. There are many different cloning effects that I do. If you want to see deeper effects that you can do, let me know. Again, I keep saying that, but I want to show you guys what you want to see. So if you want to see more cloning effects, if you want to see VHS effects, if you want to see time remapping, anything like that, let me know, and I will do my best to make a tutorial about it. I know how to do all this stuff, so I would love to show you guys how to do it. So yeah, there you have it. That's a cool effect that you can do pretty quickly once you get the hang of rotoscoping and everything. And other than that, that's it. Thanks for watching, and subscribe and like it and share it, and hit me up on Instagram, and yeah.